Lagos, the cultural and economic hub of Nigeria, has always been a city where ideas and converge and stories unfold. From its formative years as a colonial administrative hub to its rise as a global metropolis, the written word has been a powerful tool educating minds, advocating for justice, and inspiring generations.
The beginning of print culture, started here in 1846, with, the missionaries, both the Anglican and Methodist, missionaries, they established the first, printing press here in Lagos. That was 1846, and when you look critically into history, you will see that the primary motive of their printing press was to carry out Christian evangelism. It afforded them the opportunity to print religious, texts like pamphlets, like hymn books, like what do we call it? They also translated the Bible into Yoruba, so they were able to do all of that during that time, and that was what prepared the ground for the eventual establishment of the first newspaper in Nigeria, which was called Ìwé Ìròyìn. Ìwé Ìròyìn, many people believe that it was here in Lagos, but the first printing was done in Abeokuta. But the commercial, where you have the really cosmopolitan, population, was here in Lagos, and you cannot, remove the influence of the CMS group, from all of that.
The story of print culture in Lagos begins in 1859 with the publication of Ìwé Ìròyìn by Reverend Henry Townsend, a British missionary of the Christian Missionary Society, CMS. He was one of the key figures who contributed to the spread of Christianity and literacy in Nigeria. Born in Exeter, England, Townsend arrived in Abeokuta, Nigeria in 1842 and became a pioneer in missionary activities among the Yoruba people. Townsend established Nigerians' first newspaper, Ìwé Ìròyìn, fún àwọn ẹ̀rẹ̀ àgbà àti Yorùbá, 1859. To promote literacy and education, the publication was produced using a hand press that Townsend bought from Europe. Ìwé Ìròyìn was initially published in Yoruba and later in English. Aimed at educating Yoruba-speaking readers, the paper became a beacon of literacy and civic awareness.
As I said earlier, the actual intention of establishing the first press was to evangelize, to propagate, Christian, evangelism. So the missionaries needed a way to carry out their assignment, which is a means of doing that, which is communication. So through that, they created, print press, then established schools, and from there, then Ìwé Ìròyìn. Through Ìwé Ìròyìn, they were able to, provide a platform, for political debates, for not really political. They started with evangelism, then local issues and local and just but eventually things evolved. And don't forget the fact that even though they always mention Iwe, it was short-lived. It wasn't a long-running publication. I think it lasted for about 10 years or thereabout. I'm not too sure again, but it didn't last long. Unlike publications today that can say I've been around for 60 years, 70 years, and all of that. No, it was short-lived before other publications came on board. When the likes of nationalists like Herbert Macaulay, Azikiwe, and others came on board. But this one we were talking about were done only by the colonial masters, because the first newspaper, just like the first printing presses, were established by the colonial masters. Henry Townsend was the publisher of Iwe.
The West African Pilot was founded by Dr. Nnamdi Azikiwe on November 22nd, 1937. The West African Pilot was more than just a newspaper. It was a movement that shaped Nigerians' nationalist struggles and catalyzed the fight for independence. As one of the most influential newspapers of its time, the Pilot served as a platform for intellectual discourse, a voice for the oppressed, and a tool for mobilizing public opinion against colonial rule. Its bold and fearless reporting under the visionary leadership of Azikiwe laid the groundwork for Nigerians' eventual independence in 1960.
The earliest publications and printing presses brought about what they were doing at the time was imposing the foreign culture, foreign language, foreign modes of dress, all sort of things, presenting them like the model for the local populace to copy, that this is the best. So that's why when the people now know you can wear suit, you can wear this, you can wear that, that was alien to us. Yes. But when with the coming of Herbert Macaulay, what is I think Lagos, Delhi. First Herbert Macaulay came long before Azikiwe. That's the first Nigerian nationalists, who established a newspaper. I think Lagos or Nigerian Daily News or something like that. I think in 1926. So by that time, he was the major political figure at that time in Lagos. So he used his newspaper as a platform to propagate nationalist, ideas, to raise consciousness, to tell people that to engage the colonial masters, to criticize the policies of the colonial rulers and all of that. You get what I'm saying? Yes. So now, later, Nnamdi Azikiwe joined, I think in 1937, with the West African Pilot. Yes. Azikiwe also a nationalist figure. So they were politicians who were primarily focused on how Nigeria could attain self-governance. That is how they can ask the British people to leave the political affairs of Nigeria alone and allow Nigerians, to be in charge of their own government.
The newspaper provided a way for legations to express their feelings and promote their interest. It helped promote nationalism and fight against colonial rule.
So, when you read the history of Herbert Macaulay, you'll be shocked. Here was a man, if you see his house in Yaba, that you will be shocked that he was a highly influential Nigerian. Through his newspaper, people will know all the secrets of the colonial government. So every edict, most of what is, but even what is secret that should not be out, you will see it. So much that he developed sources within the rulership of Nigeria then, and you will see things. So that was why he was constantly jailed or having troubles with the colonial rulers. So now they were able to start by constantly exposing the evils in colonial administration, the bad policies, the repressive tendencies of the colonial rule. Many people started believing then that they were able to mobilize people towards one direction, that Nigeria is better governed by Nigerians. So now, when Herbert Macaulay came with his West African pilot, that one was a phenomenal, success in journalism when you read into the history of the West African pilot, because later established several what you will call vernacular publications, that is the ones done in local languages. And yes, and it was highly popular. Yes, highly popular, than most you can see. So, and at the end of the day, people started believing that it's like what these people are saying is true. So because the newspapers provided platforms for people for political debate, political discourse, they were able to impose their own views, and people started embracing new ideas that really it's better for us to act. And with that, other newspaper came. Before you know it, don't forget that the missionary people had established schools, especially the Anglican and Methodist in what they call Wesleyan, people. They were establishing schools. Reason, they want people to be literate, so that when they publish texts in books, religious texts, Bible, people can read. And they were doing that in two languages, English and Yoruba. So they were teaching people to read in both languages. And before you know it, by the time the Herbert Macaulay and Nnamdi Azikiwe newspapers and other newspapers came, so they were able to find a populace that could embrace what they were doing. Then from there, political consciousness began, to rise and spread, and all of a sudden, you saw what happened. It led to many other publications, and many people joined what they were doing. And at that time in politics, it was only one goal. There was no opposition, and everybody wanted independence. And at that time, they got it.
The print culture in Lagos has witnessed significant technological advancement over the years, evolving from rudimentary presses to modern light digital system. These advancements have shaped how newspapers are produced, distributed, and consumed, influencing the growth and influence of prominent publications. In the 19th century, newspapers like Iwo Iroyin and the Lagos Times used hand-operated flap-head printed presses. These machines were labor-intensive and slow, capable of producing limited copies daily. Despite their limitation, these presses played a crucial role in introducing print culture to Lagos. By the 1920s, newspapers like the Daily Times adopted time mechanical printing presses that increased efficiency and allowed for higher circulation. Rotatory presses were introduced in mid-century, enabling newspapers like the West African Pilot to produce thousands of copies daily with improved print quality.
Those are different epochs. If you look at it, during the colonial rule, then during the time when there was the struggle for independence, then post-independence. And when you take it from the first one, which was during the colonial rule, you will see that newspapers of that time were able to, propagate what I will, were able to expose Nigerians, Lagosians to the foreign culture. Were able to show Nigerians that foreign culture is better, is the ideal, is what they, that foreign language, foreign culture, all the ways of the foreigners. These are the things that you should emulate. These are the best you should copy. So that was very, very visible during that time. So when you look at the culture of that time, it was the newspapers of that time that served as the platform, for that. But by the time the indigenous people took over, came into the picture, people like Ebert Macaulay, people like Nnamdi Azikiwe, you will see that those ones started challenging the narratives that no, our things are. You understand me? Yes. So decided, and don't forget, Lagos is a cultural meeting point. Yeah. You have it's the cosmopolitan nature of Lagos. It's not just only for Yoruba people. You have several other people migrating from everywhere, not just even Nigeria. So because of the cosmopolitan nature of Lagos, so before you know it, the newspapers at that time, the West African Pilot and the paper of and all others were able to challenge the narratives that in the foreign language is better. No, it's not. They were saying that foreign weight of dressing is the best. So, and at that time, people started, looking on that. Oh, you mean this is that, and you can see the way the culture was. And don't forget that all is built on an emerging new class of people. That is, new class of educated people who have been able to, or maybe I should say literate people, who are able to read in English and Yoruba. Now they push all of that to a point that you see that the political consciousness became so high and we got independence. Yeah. Don't forget that at that period in time, the central government is there. Was there. Yes. The seat of the central government was there. Yeah. So at the end of the day, after independence, through the struggle for independence, you will see the cultural unity, the national identity, the national, that everybody became united, that we have only one common enemy. Who are they? The colonial masters. Let them go. Then we can govern ourselves. Yeah. When the British people left Nigeria, that's another thing. The military stepped in. And you see the repression became very difficult, and up to today you can tell these stories.
Offset lithography became the dominant technology. Newspapers like The Punch and The Guardian used offset presses to achieve faster production speeds, better image quality, and cost efficiency. This technology allowed for greater flexibility in design and layout, making newspapers more visually appealing from the 1990s onward.
Well, among the younger elements in our population, I know, where the digital culture is immersive, is very deep, you realize that comparing the two, you see that there is wide gap. When you are talking about journalism, people studies upon studies, people trust the news they see in the traditional media than the digital, because in the traditional media the reputation, trust, have been built over several decades. You get what I'm saying?
Yes.
In some countries, centuries. here over several decades. Eh? Yes. There is no way you see a story in the Nation or in the Punch and compare to one city news or something in the online publication. It's not the same. You look at the way news is reported and packaged in the two, both in the digital and it's not the same. Yes. You look at the amount of editorial energy that is, put into packaging news in the traditional media, from the various levels of gatekeeping to the final consumer. That is not done in the digital. It's hardly done. Or if it is done, maybe one or two. For the majority, it doesn't. So you cannot compare. And the public, what they want in news, they want something they can trust. Yes. They want something that is reliable. Most of the news you see on social media, I use the word a little bit, most of the news you see in the social media are not things, are not stuff you can trust. And studies upon studies have shown this. This is my profession, and I also studied it, so I know what I'm saying. And when you even do maybe through surveys or you realize that the credibility crisis afflicting the digital news content is not the same with the traditional media. So now, how is the traditional media, adapting to benefit from there is no traditional media today that is printing and does not have the digital, So that's what they call media convergence. The first place I wanted to use that time was our, online, section. You have seen it. So there's no newspaper today that doesn't have a strong online presence, digital presence. So you can harness the beauty, or many good things in the digital thing and add to what you have. Yes. They are to make your work easier. They are to make your work better, more efficient, more, readily available. Because if you print today and unless you are able to distribute to places like Onitsha or Bayelsa or whatever, they won't see what you have done. Yeah. But with digital, content, the moment things are published, once everybody gets it. So when you have such resources around you, you don't sit by and watch. You just tap into them and make your job
During
better.
Nigerian's military era, 1966 to 1999, the press in Lagos, as the country's media hub, faced significant censorship and repression military regimes, starting with General Johnson Aguiyi-Ironsi and extending through successive leaders like Generals Yakubu Gowon, Olusegun Obasanjo, Muhammad Buhari, and Sani Abacha, often viewed the press as a threat to their authority.
Are doing, we put it there in the public domain for people to discuss. You watch television, you listen to the radio, you read newspapers, and of recent, see what is going on these various social media handles like Facebook, like what's going on Instagram, what are people talking about there, you understand? So that we just do our job. Our job is to gather information about things that matter to the people of Nigeria, things we believe should command the attention of lawmakers, you understand? Yes. And then we'll do stories about them. What we do in any form, you understand, has influenced the public policy or shifted public policy. Although most of the time when we do stories, it is with intent to call attention to the issue in the story. To call attention to the issue in the story. If, for instance, today's newspaper, this is Vanguard, the lead headline is States Race to Build Airports as Hunger Bites Ada. Virtually all the states are trying to build one airport. We are hungry. And we are hungry. So that is what we are trying to do. You understand? We are trying to call attention to the issue of hunger. Go and build mega farms instead of airports. How many people will the airports provide food for? Only very few people can get employment there. And an airport is a specialized facility. The people that will be using it will be air traffic controllers, pilots, private jet owners, airline operators, and the rest like that, and all other aviation specialists. And these are specialized skills. There are not many relative to the entire population. So if you go and build an airport in Ede, Osun State, for instance, whereas we think, it is our own thinking in this section of the press, that more people need more food than they need airports. You understand? We just do our stories to help to see.
Prominent newspapers such as The Guardian, Daily Trust, and The Punch transitioned to web-based content management systems, CMS, to manage both print and online editions. Many newspapers now use digital printing technologies for short-run production, reducing waste and improving turnaround times. Newspapers like Premium Times and The Cable are entirely digital, leveraging websites and mobile apps for real-time news updates.
Social media. It is too much to say that social media peddle misinformation. Not all the time. Not all of them. For instance, the president operates on the social media. He has a Twitter handle or X handle. So his special advisor posts information there. It's coming from the president. That cannot be misinformation. You understand? Rather, let me put it this way. What we do in the media is because we also do a lot of monitoring of the social media. When we see any information on the social media, say for instance now, when was it? Somebody was rumored to have died just before Christmas. Mike Adenuga was all over the internet that Mike Adenuga had died. I saw it on Facebook, saw it on various other social media platforms. And what I did, because I know the public affairs manager of Globacom, so I called him. What is all this thing we are seeing? He said, ignore it. He said, ignore it. Nothing to our chairman. That was how he said it. You understand? That is how we deal with the information. Occasionally, you can see such information and it can be very correct. You understand? For instance, on the social media, it was on the social media that we had the news of the stampede in Ibadan, in which 35 people died, mostly children. You can actually get good information from the social media. What is bad about it is when you do not cross-check the information that you have, and then you just parrot it. Leave it out. That is when the social media can actually be a very good source of information. Because it was unlike before the internet became so ubiquitous. Something can be happening in Abuja, but for a whole week, nobody may hear about it in Lagos. You may not know that anything like that is happening in Lagos. But as Marshall McLuhan said, the whole world has now become a global village. A village is a small settlement where anything that happens in one part is quickly known everywhere. So with the aid of technology, using cell phones enabled by all kinds of other ancillary technologies like information and communications technology and all that, you can know what is happening immediately anywhere in any part of the world. You can get it through a messaging application like WhatsApp or Telegram, and the person first see it will decide to post it on WhatsApp or post it on Facebook or on Instagram, and you see it. It's then. So social media is a double-edged sword. When you see information there, check and double check and make sure that the information concerning that issue is that you are going to put out is the one that is actually correct.